Hello and good morning, everyone, and welcome to your daily sit rep for Friday, the 10th of October, 2025. I'm your host, Mike Shelby. We have a lot to get to again today. Robert, good morning. Let's jump inside the Beltway here, starting with this latest out of the Department of Transportation.
Good morning, Mike. So the DOT yesterday said it's going to allocate $41 million to what's called the Essential Air Service Program. The idea is to prevent air travel disruptions due to the ongoing federal government shutdown. This program subsidizes major airline flights to rural airports, and the idea is to prevent major ticket price spikes and potential loss of service as the government shutdown continues.
Mm-hmm. Also, on that note, let's skip down to Southwest because they have issued a similar warning, but this one apparently is nationwide.
Yeah, this is Southwest Airlines warning their own employees that they're expecting operational delays to potentially increase due to air traffic controller shortages as the government shutdown continues. They expect potentially more disruptions since the other than the ones we've already covered. And they said the situation is dynamic and could rapidly change at any air traffic control facility nationwide.
Mm-hmm. And if Southwest is warning this, it's a fair assumption to say United or American Airlines or Delta is probably facing similar problems.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then finally, this mid-decade redistricting map out of Indiana. I recall that you did bring them up as a state that they may try to gerrymander more Republican seats. Apparently, they need the influence of Vice President J.D. Vance to do that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of resistance from Indiana Republicans, a handful of key ones that are pushing back against doing this mid-decade redistricting. In previous attempts to get them to do this include bringing, I think, most of the Indiana GOP to the White House in August to basically get a stump speech from President Trump or pressure from President Trump to do this. And now J.D. Vance is expected to fly to Indiana today, according to an FAA notice. I think he's likely going there to get Indiana Republicans to push through this new mid-decade map, which, as far as I could find, the deadline to actually get that done for Indiana specifically would be February of next year. So there's a few more months for them to get this map done.
Mm-hmm. And then how many seats, and maybe I understand they don't have the map done yet, but how many seats do you see the Republicans could be creating there?
If they tried to get, if they did a full gerrymander, they could get 2 seats. I think it's 7 and 2. It's 7 Republican seats and 2 Democrat seats right now, and they could get at least 1, but potentially 2.
Mm-hmm. All right, and that would bring. I know you said earlier, maybe yesterday, Democrats have said that Republicans are going to gerrymander up to 27 additional seats. Seems kind of high to me. But last I think you said 14, like pretty solid going to happen if it survives the courts.
Yeah, that with Florida, Texas, and a handful of other states. I think Missouri was the most recent one to push through a new map. They could be seeing up to 15 seats, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for that, Robert. And we'll go ahead and move on here to the global sit rep, starting with Taiwan. Jared.
Absolutely. In Taiwan, Taiwanese President Lai's National Day address, he said that the new 5% defense spending that Taiwan just initiated will help accelerate the building of the T-Dome air defense system, which should ring pretty familiar as for anybody that knows of the Iron Dome and the Golden Dome. Now, Taiwan's heavily dependent on American anti-air systems already. They do have some of their own, but they are heavily dependent on us. And I think that they're likely to increase imports from us while integrating the systems into a single operational picture. So they're going to need additional tech support as well. So expect more money flowing into the U.S. for weapons while our stocks remain low because they're going to start absorbing all of the additional production that could be coming. Mm. Moving over to Pakistan. Pakistan's Air Force conducted an airstrike on one of the high-ranking members of the Tehrik-i-Taliban in Pakistan, Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan in Kabul, Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. That was, frankly, it looks like it's part of a larger operation. They are also conducting
counter-terror operation. Yeah.
Yes, they're also conducting operations in northern Pakistan. But the Pakistani defense minister did warn Afghanistan that strikes would continue against militants and their backers. There has been a little bit of back and forth. He hasn't directly said, "Hey, Afghanistan is harboring these people," but has said you're not doing enough to counter them. That's starting to suggest that maybe they're seeing Afghanistan as complicit. Now, going over to Europe, NATO is going to kick off its annual nuclear deterrence exercise next week with 71 aircraft. NATO officials say that the exercise is going to simulate using nuclear weapons, but that this exercise is not linked to any real world events. This is an annual exercise, but I expect to see a lot of information operations around it saying, oh man, we're getting ready for something, because there's been a lot of talk about nuclear usage recently. I don't think that's going to be related here. This is normal. And lastly, much closer to home, Peru's Congress overnight voted to remove its now former president, Dina Boluarte, and replace her with the president of the Congress, Jose Harry, after several members of Congress were injured in a concert shooting on Wednesday. Now, Harry immediately promised to declare a war on crime. He's going to run basically to remove street gangs from Peru. Now, this is particularly important because Harry is a Christian Democrat, so he's center right, and Boluarte was a socialist. They do have elections coming up next year, and they just opened that megaport over in Chankay with China. So there could be a lot of dominoes that start falling here. Got to see how this shakes out. Frankly, it was sudden.
Yeah, very shocking to me too. I would not expect that in Peru, but yeah, maybe good for them. And yes, major elections coming up over the next less than 12 months now throughout South America. And we could see this Azul wave of these center-right or right-wing presidents being elected. All right, thanks for that, Jared. And moving on, 444 protests coming up this weekend. Another pretty basic weekend for national protesters. As a reminder, coming up on the 18th of October, that's a Saturday, No King's Day 2.0. They say they have over 2,000 individual protests scheduled, which is more than they had for No King's Day 1.0 back in June. They want this one to be bigger and better. We'll see. And that's coming up. Again, peaceful. Actually, Indivisible just sent out an email yesterday. Indivisible is the country's largest protest organizer. They're the ones behind all these protests. And it was an email with a recommitment to peaceful protest and nonviolence, basically saying, police out anyone who's not committed to peaceful protest. This is such an important key because important part of this. Remember, these protests, some of the individual protesters, I'm sure, are not connecting the dots. But the dots that should be connected is this is a building block for a potential color revolution in 2028 and maybe into 2029. You have to have sustained protests turning out. That's your base layer for your entire movement, is your mass mobilization protest movement. So keep this in the back of your mind. We are on the cusp of moving into organized resistance. We're not there yet, but Indivisible continues to say, in the coming months, they said this 2-3 weeks ago, in the coming months, we're going to ask you to escalate your tactics. And we'll talk a lot more about what that looks like in the weeks ahead. Over on the high side, that's going to do it for today's daily sit rep. We're going to jump over and do our early warning members briefing. And we're going to talk about these, the Trump administration going after these far left support networks, targeting the financiers and funding. I told y'all a couple of months ago, I said, it's coming. Do not doubt me. And I talked about the executive order, actually a series of executive orders that were being drafted. And then the assassination of Charlie Kirk happened. And what they were planning on doing, eventually, they said, we got to do it now. So we'll break that down. We'll talk about a lot of other things, especially in the Homeland Operations brief. Lots still going on with these federal law enforcement surges across the country. And of course, if you didn't see it yesterday, it was in yesterday's report. And then DHS and ICE and these federal agencies started warning. Apparently, I don't know if it's still going to happen because of the attention that it's gotten. But Rose City Antifa, which is based in Portland, Oregon, in the Portland area, said that on Saturday night they were going to go out and shine lasers at law enforcement helicopters. And it's odd because the city of Portland issued a post on social media that said, we're hearing lots of people talking about helicopters flying over the city, and we just want to let you know that's not us. Maybe some tacit approval for targeting these flights with lasers. Bad idea. We'll see. So if you're in the Portland area, I don't know, say a prayer and listen for helicopters, and hopefully those pilots aren't blinded. All right. With that, everyone, we appreciate your support. This is going to go ahead and do it for us on the Daily Sit Rep. Jared, please take us out. And early warning, folks, please stand by.